So very good question. In fact, what we are missing in the whole game plan here is the agrobiodiversity. This is what we need to focus, which we don't talk much about. Agrobiodiversity is conserving all the wild varieties, land races, whatever we have in the villages around where we have agriculture. So there is one area which is yet to take up. When we talk of biodiversity, we just go blank and blind, and we even don't think of our survival. If you really want to make a biodiverse world in a very approach which is foolproof, I think it's not possible because we with the growing population, with the human needs for food, and with the human needs for developing more infrastructure, industrialization, what we need is an ideal balance. And what is a balance? Who will decide the balance? What is the threshold? Those are the questions we need to discuss. Then only talking about biodiversity.
What is the balance?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer. Well, for me, the balance is we have to look at a given ecosystem, look at the population, look at the community, look at the economic conditions, look at the requirement of the given ecosystem, and then we work out the balance, because there may be an ecosystem where developing an infrastructure, raising high-rise buildings and all may not be very good, because probably the soil is very fertile, it can be used otherwise. We will be also playing with biodiversity. But if we have an ecosystem where the soil is not very good, it's a waste soil, and I think those are the regions where we can keep a different kind of a margin for developing infrastructure or developing the concrete structures to fulfill the demands of the modern world.
There seems to be a feeling among some observers that farmers have perhaps lost the skills that served them so well 100, 200 years ago, where they used to change the fields every year and maybe leave one field fallow for a year and then plant again. But now we have so many fertilizers and chemicals, we can use fields year on year on year. Do you think there is any truth in the idea that farmers have lost their knowledge?
They have not lost their knowledge. Farmers have become what they feel very progressive. We are living in an era of WTO. The whole earlier, like in India, when a child was born, we used to say in the family, the whole world is a family. And now in US and even in India or in Europe, when the child is born, what we tell to a child, the world is a market. See, the very mindset has changed. And farmers need to really earn more and more because they need to spend on education, which they were not spending earlier. They need to spend on better living, they were not spending earlier. They need to buy more gadgets, they need to equip their houses, they need to send their children wherever they want. So the demand has increased for the needs of how you fix your demand is again for individual. And a farmer is a human being at the end of the day. In the urban world, we feel that the farmer should remain poor, he should remain contented. We take a farmer as a different species. I mean, this is our mindset, this is our problem. A farmer is a human being like us who live in the urban area, and they need to progress, and they see that where is the market access, what is the market price, how much I can earn more, what inputs I can use, be it chemical, be it fertilizer, how much I can poison the soil to grow more, how much I can earn more. So I think the question is a very interesting one, but this is a global problem. It's not only with the Indian farmers, it is all over the world. Outside India or Asia, where people are a bit much better off, they have subsidies, but that again is not to really help the environment in the real sense. That again is to manage their national export, import, and national revenues. So the very concept of living has changed. Biodiversity is an old traditional word. It's in the old traditional world, it existed because people could not play with it. They had enough time to conserve it. Now we are struggling to conserve it because we have destroyed the biodiversity. And now we are telling to the world it has been destroyed.
India famously increased its food production over the past 30, 40 years by tremendous amounts, and it's been used as a case study around the world. But Is there any scope for India to increase that further without cutting down more forests, without bulldozering vast sort of tracts of land which otherwise would be used as safe havens for other animals and other plants? Is there that capacity?
India has a capacity for increasing food production. We have almost doubled our production in the last 10 years, and we have reached to about 260 million tons right now. But if you look at the population, we really need to work hard. And I think India is geared up to a great extent when I look at the national agriculture system from two angles, because we have a blend of expertise, the blend of farmers, the variety of land, the variety of agroecological conditions. We just need to be agriculture smart now. We just should not grow whatever we want to grow. We need to grow things in a given area where productivity is high. We need to go for more contract farming. We need to be very careful how we are going ahead. The policy has to change, but India will be able to make up the food security without playing with biodiversity. The only thing which will be affected may be agro-biodiversity. The foresting, the infrastructure will not be much affected when we talk of food security.
And a final question, we talked about it briefly before we started recording, but GM foods, very, very controversial at the moment in the UK. There have been a number of trials taking place, and I'm sure around the world. But can the world be fed without GM?
Well, GM comes from biotechnology, and we are blaming biotechnology for nothing. If you look, there are things beyond GM crops. By using biotechnology, we have marker-assisted selections where we can identify genes in the various germplasm, genetic resources. And those can be bred with the normal varieties, and in a lesser amount of time, by using biotechnology, we can have crops which will produce as much as the GM crop is going to produce. India had an unfortunate way of going ahead with GM. The first gene we imported here was a Cry1AC gene for cotton from Monsanto, which is an animal toxin gene. So the word toxin was very dangerous for a very common man who didn't know anything about science. And secondly, we had put that gene in brinjal, which is an edible crop, which is for human consumption. And if you tell to people we have an insect toxin gene in a food crop, who is going to eat it? So basically, they're only sequences. I think our policies, our way of approach of managing GM has been not up to the mark. We had not been careful. We had not been proactive. And the NGOs had been much more proactive than the GMOs in the country, I should say. And as such, I think GM crop will be there. If we develop a GM crop where we have additional vitamin, additional protein, everyone would like to have. Every human being in the world is consuming GM medicine. All the medicines, all the vaccines are coming from recombinant DNA technology. It comes to our life. We said, oh yes, we even don't question what is it. We just take the pill. I mean, that's all. So when human life itself is concerned, we never talk of GM. When it comes to farmers, when it comes to environment, suddenly we become very wise. To some extent, it is correct. But I think the hype is a bit much more exaggerated than what it should have been.